love a good beach read as much as the next girl, but when I say beach read, I mean the most depressing, gut-wrenching, heartbreaking and nostalgic book that has ever been written. That is the type of book that I like to read on the beach in summer. And these are the books that capture that summer feeling so perfectly, like the feeling where time slows down and nothing else matters but the sun and the beach and that ache of growing up and remembering and longing and yearning. Like that is what really encapsulates summer for me. And the books I have for you today really just do it perfectly. The best way to describe the books in this list is like you go to a thrift store and rummage through like a box of old postcards, and at the bottom you find this faded old postcard coming from somewhere in a country in Southern Europe, and you turn the back and you find out it's written to like a lost love in the 1920s. That feeling is in these books. Exactly that. And these are 11 books and they're all set somewhere in Europe, from like Poland to France to Italy, and all but one are set in the 20th century, because I don't know what it is, but this type of story hits even harder when it's the 1900s, because I think it's the lack of cell phones. People still had to write letters and call each other up on like the landline. There's some extra element of romance to that, where you're so disconnected from the world when you're on vacation, that just makes it even better. And yeah, the most important criterion for me with these books is that it invokes a deep sense of nostalgia, melancholy, and just longing and yearning, and that slow, languid feeling of summer. That is what these books are. So let me tell you about my favorite ones. Let's start with the book that I actually reread this week, because I have a book club for this book the end of the month. It's Bonjour Tristes by Françoise Sagan. And I read this book a few years ago, so I thought I needed a refresher for the book club. And I think I loved it the second time way more than the first time, because I could capture the more nuanced elements of the story way better this time. Like, I didn't notice the first time how self-aware and hilarious this book is. So just to tell you what this is about the 17-year-old Cecile and her dad. They live a life of like bohemian freedom. They're sort of frivolous. They just live for the fun of it all. They're not very serious. They don't have a lot of depth to them, but they know it. Like they know it and they don't care. And this summer they go to the French Riviera. Her dad has rented a house there, and he's taking his lover Elsa, this young, beautiful girl, also not a lot of depth to her. And they have a great summer. Cecile's having a great time. She's just exploring the French Riviera. She's having a little flirtation with a guy on the island. And then at some point, suddenly, her dad also invites Anna, who is this friend of her late mother and also had some part in Cecile's upbringing. She's this very elegant woman. She moves in more intellectual circles and like in society. So Cecile feels a little bit threatened by her arrival, because she's like, this woman is gonna ruin my nice summer of freedom and frivolity. But matters take a turn for the worse when Cecile's father and Anna announce that they plan to get married. And this sets some events in motion. Like, Cecile is not happy about this and she tries to sabotage this relationship in every way she can. But it also leads to sort of like an awakening for Cecile, where she realizes she has a lot of feelings about things and like empathy for other people. And like she needs to think deeper about some things than she did before. Like, this is really like a teenager growing up and realizing that other people have feelings too, and that even she can get hurt by her own feelings. So it's really like a teenage coming of age, but like it's really self-aware, especially because the author was 18 at the time she wrote this. So not only is the protagonist self-aware, the author herself was very self-aware for noticing all these things about teenagehood. And it's also just very funny because Cecile is so aware of the frivolity of their lives and of their bohemian lifestyle, and that they just don't think so much about things. So she makes like a lot of funny comments about her dad as well, that I underlined a lot because I just thought it was hilarious. But my favorite part about this book by far is how it perfectly captures the atmosphere of like a sun-drenched summer at the seaside. It's just so languid, so beautiful, so in the moment. Like, there was this passage that I absolutely adored. I almost screamed out loud when I read it, because it just so perfectly captured the feeling of a summer holiday for me. Where is it? Was it at the start? Oh, here it is. She paid no attention to me, so I settled down quietly on a step with a cup of coffee and an orange and started into this delicious morning fare. I bit into the orange and its sweet juice spurted into my mouth. That was followed straight away by a gulp of scalding black coffee, and then again came the coolness of the fruit. The morning sun was warming my hair and smoothing out the marks that the sheet had left on my skin. In 5 minutes, I would be going for a swim. Like, does this not perfectly capture the feeling of being on summer holiday, having your morning breakfast, you feel the day is gonna get hot, like the day stretches empty out in front of you, you have nothing to do, no obligations, just to like read, swim, and lay in the sun? That feeling is so good, and this book is that feeling. That's all I can say about it. I absolutely adored it, and it also has some more like heavier themes of like the consequences of one's actions and the way you can make one small choice and it affects like so many lives around you, and the responsibility and guilt you have to live with afterwards. That is one of the most important themes of this book, I would say. So it's not just all like sitting in the sun and like frivolity. It has like some food for thought for sure. But the summer feeling of this book is what made me love it so much. The next one on the list is The Offing by Benjamin Myers, and this was one of my favorite books of last year. This is set in post-World War II England, and it follows Robert, who is sort of set to follow in the footsteps of his father and everyone else in the small town where he lives, because everyone works in the mines of the town. And Robert has just graduated and he kind of knows like this is the path that is laid out for him. But he is not feeling it. He's like, no, I will do this, but first I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm just gonna go for a walk through England and see what happens, basically. So one day he sets out, he goes on his walk, and at some point during this walk he comes across this cottage by the seaside, and in here lives Dulcie, an eccentric older woman, and Robert offers his help to her because the garden is very overgrown, and he like offers his help in exchange for a stay just for one night. But one night turns into more as they develop a very special friendship, and Dulcie introduces Robert to like the world of poetry, good food, self-reflection, and really enjoying the small moments, like the life in front of you. And there's also a heartbreaking element to the story which makes this book very bittersweet. But it is one of the most beautiful books I read when it comes to like appreciating nature and like sharing in the bounty of the world and like seeing the beauty around you. Like this book really indulges in how good food can be and like really tasting the food that you prepared for yourself with attention and care and with time and patience. There's a lot of poetry, there's a lot of philosophical conversations about art and the meaning of it all. Here's a passage that I really liked. It says, "Poetry is mankind's way of saying that we are not entirely alone in the world. It offers a voice of comfort to resonate down through the ages like a lone foghorn's mournful call in the nautical night. Poetry is a stepladder between the centuries, from ancient Greece to tomorrow afternoon. Your problem is just you haven't been introduced to the pure poets, those who hit the head and the heart." Like this is sort of the conversations they have. Like Dulcie is really like educating Robert, who comes from this small town, is very like shut up from the world. While Dulcie moved into these more like artistic circles in the city. And yeah, I think I just have a weak spot for fictional characters that are like a grumpy old person but with a very big heart. Like they would never tell you that, but they have such a big heart and it really shows through their actions. And Dulcie is exactly that. Like she's eccentric and she is like sort of pushy and forceful and secretive, but also such a warm person, and I just love the friendship between her and Robert. This was really a heartwarming book. Then, of course, we have to mention Call Me By Your Name by André Aciman. This is the book that started it all for me. When I discovered this story, I was like, I need to read books like this for the rest of my life. And I think a lot of people feel this way because so many people love this, also the movie. This just captures perfectly the feeling of a slow summer and your first love and first heartbreak. Nothing can compare to this book, in my opinion. Not just for the northern Italian summer vibes, but also for the feelings that come with like your first teenage love. Like the insane thoughts and the obsession that goes with it, and like not being able to get them out of your head and just resorting to like insane things to get their attention. This captures it so well. Like at some point it's uncomfortable, but it's uncomfortable because it's true, you know? Like you kind of recognize the insanity that comes with having a crush. So that is done so well, but I also love the family in this book. I love how Elio grows up in this like artistic family where they invite other artists over to their Italian farmhouse. They have these big dinners and breakfasts together. They have philosophical conversations with their artistic friends. And then afterwards, Elio plays the piano for them at night. Like the whole life in this book is the life I crave and the life I hope I can create with my own family at some point, because it's just a dream. And like I said, this takes place in northern Italy in the 1980s, so it's not super early in like the 1900s, but it still has a very nostalgic feeling to me, because there's no cell phones yet, they just call on the phone, and that just gives such a different feeling to the book already. And yeah, I just cannot say enough good things about this book. I love literally everything about it. And if I have to say one favorite thing about it, it would just be the intense feeling of longing and nostalgia towards the kind of summer that this book portrays, because it's so perfectly done. The next book is Antiquity by Hanna Johansson, and I have to say that this was not my favorite read. I think it was like a solid 3-star read, but I did want to mention it because it fits so perfectly in this genre, and also because this is the only lesbian one on the list. So in that sense, it also distinguishes itself from the other books. This follows an unnamed narrator who's sort of obsessed with this female artist, Helena, that she once interviewed and then stayed in touch with. And they develop sort of like it's not really a friendship, it's a very strange relationship, but it's not romantic. But the narrator is very obsessed with this woman. And at some point, Helena invites her to their house in, what is the city called? Hermopoli, which is on a Greek island. So the narrator visits Helena on this island, and it turns out Helena's daughter is also there. And then the obsession from the narrator shifts from Helena, the artist, to her daughter. And this is where it also becomes predatory. It's a predatory story. There's a very large age gap. There's a very large power imbalance. So this is definitely not a romance. It's a story of obsession and possession. So this one is definitely a bit darker in its themes. It focuses very much on like desire and manipulation, and also a little bit of existentialism, because the narrator is very lost. Like, I had no idea what her purpose in life was. So it also felt a little bit existentialist. But once again, the languid summer vibes are elite. Like, that was again my favorite part about this book. And this book is a bit more fragmented and dreamlike and like literary almost than the other books, I would say. So this one doesn't have that languid slow feeling as much as the other ones, because it's a bit more fragmented. But just the visuals and like the place they are, and like the summer house on a Greek island, absolute perfection. Then we have In the Café of Lost Youth by Patrick Modiano. And I have to preface this with saying that it's not necessarily a summer book. I don't even remember if it takes place in summer. I don't think it does. But the feeling this book captures makes it fit in this list perfectly. So this is set in Paris in the 1950s, and it follows multiple narrators who are all sort of obsessed with this young woman who moves through like the intellectual, artistic, and like bohemian scene of Paris in the 1950s. And they all see her at this Café of Lost Youth. And then at some point, this woman disappears. And throughout the different narrators, you find out what happened to her. And this book was very haunting, I would say. It's sort of like foggy, also very nostalgic. Like, all of the books in this list are first and foremost very nostalgic, I would say. But yeah, this one is definitely one of the more nostalgic ones. It is very sad and heartbreaking, but I love a good book that focuses on the bohemian and artistic scene of Paris in the 1900s. Nothing beats it for me, and this one does it like no other. I love it so much. I definitely have to reread it soon, because I don't really remember what happened exactly, but I remember loving it a lot. This perfectly captures like the melancholy mood of this genre. Next up we have Lost Summer in the City by Gianfranco Calligarich. This takes place in Rome in the 1970s and follows Leo, who's sort of adrift. He spends his summer in like an alcoholic haze, moving from party to party, sleeping on French couches, in hotels. And he moves in these circles of his rich and well-educated friends, and everyone is super ambitious except him. He has no ambitions whatsoever, and he romanticizes his despair a lot. And the whole summer he just sort of flits through like existential crisis and fleeting love affairs. But all throughout is his lasting love for the city of Rome. Rome, by her very nature, has a particular intoxication that wipes out memory. She's not so much a city as a wild beast hidden in some secret part of you. There can be no half measures with her. Either she's the love of your life, or you have to leave her, because that's what the tender beast demands, to be loved. That's the only entrance toll you have to pay from wherever you've come from the green hilly roads of the south, or the straight seesawing roads of the north, or the depths of your own soul. If she's loved, she'd give herself to you whichever way you want her. All you need to do is go with the flow, and you'll be within reach of the happiness you deserve. This book is just the prime example of summertime sadness. So if that's what you're looking for, a really sad existentialist and sort of like aimless summer read, go for this one. Next up, we have another book that is not strictly set in summer, but it is set in Berlin in the 1920s, and that is Madonna in a Fur Coat by Sabahattin. I read this a few months ago actually, because it suddenly made a big revival on social media. I suddenly saw it everywhere and I was like, wait, this sounds exactly up my alley. And it was, because it was exactly the kind of perfect melancholic, sad, heart-wrenching kind of book that I like to read. This follows a Turkish man who goes to Berlin to get educated there for his father's business, so he can follow up his father in the business, which I think is a soap business, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. While in Berlin, he happens upon a painting at a gallery that he becomes absolutely obsessed with, and eventually he finds out who the artist is, and he falls in love with her, and they develop this sort of like tender intellectual connection that is ultimately very doomed. And this book is very much about looking back on your life and the chances you missed, and it's just so gut-wrenching. Like, no other book made me feel as much that I wish I could go back in time and fix things for a character as with this one. It was really sad, but ultimately, again, so beautiful, gorgeous writing and gorgeous atmosphere. This one is a bit of an outlier. This is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. And in terms of atmosphere and tone and feeling, I don't think this book fully matches for the genre, but I still want to mention it anyway because, first of all, I'm absolutely obsessed. This is one of my favorite book series of all time. And second of all, it does take place in Naples in the 1950s, and a large chunk of it is spent in summer, like at the beach. So I felt like this still deserved a mention, and like I said, it's so good. It's not as slow and languid and introspective as all of the other books mentioned here, but it still has a very nostalgic quality to me, especially the first book in the series, because this is a 4-book series. The first book focuses on the childhood of the protagonist, so it's very much a coming of age, and this book centers the friendship between the protagonist Elena and her friend Lila. They develop a very difficult, complex, and interesting friendship. They are both trying to figure out what their identity is, what their purpose is in this poor neighborhood in Napoli that they are born in as women. Women that don't have a lot of chances or opportunities to get out. Like, what is expected of them is just to, work, find a husband, yada, yada, yada. But they are so intelligent and they want to make it out. They want to find their own identity, their own purpose. And this makes for an element of competition and envy in their friendship. And this book is just so brutally honest and really intense. Like, intense is the best way to describe it. Like, in no moment could I relax in this book because, like, not a lot happens. It's not that, but just how vivid Elena's thoughts are and how well they are described, and like these people are real to me. I refuse to believe that this is fully fiction. There must be some autobiographical element to it, because there's no way this is not based on reality. That's how real this book feels to me, and I think everyone should read it. I already talked about it in my last video, so I'm gonna stop now, but this is good. Then we have A Lie With Me by Philippe Besson. And this is one of the more heartbreaking books on this list, I would say. This is about, what was his name? Philippe. He's a famous writer, and he happens upon a young boy in a hotel who looks exactly like his first love. And from there on, he sort of starts recounting the story of this teenage secret love affair he had with one of his classmates in the French countryside in the 1980s. And this book is just pure repressed sorrow that is finally coming out. Like, the pain in this book is so bearable, and like the tender feelings he has towards this love affair that he had with this boy, it just jumps off the page and like grabs you by the throat. It's so beautifully done, and it's so short, but it really packs a punch, I would say. Like, this is very memorable. And again, it's the French countryside in the 1980s. It's summer, there's a love affair, and it's just everything I could ever want for my perfect summer read. It's stunning, it's so beautiful, and it will stay with you for a long time. Then we have one that could not be absent from this list, and that is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. This is a big favorite of many people, and I loved it as well. I really loved it. I think it's really good, but it's not necessarily like more special to me than the other books on this list. Like, I wonder what it is about this one that makes it stand out so much more for people than the other ones, but it's still very good. And this follows David, an American who lives in Paris in the 1950s, and he has a fiancée, Hella, but she's away traveling, I think. And then David falls into this passionate love affair with an Italian bartender named Giovanni. And this love is very intense, slightly toxic, I would say. And this is mostly due to David's very internalized homophobia and his fear of being judged by society. So he becomes very much divided between his inner life with Giovanni and like his true love, and his outer life for the outer world with his fiancée Hella. And when Hella returns from her travels, David tries to suppress his feelings for Giovanni and return back to normal life, but this has some like devastating consequences. Again, really sad. Are we surprised? All of these books are sad. That's just the mood for summer for me. I don't know. Like, people associate summer and like beach reads with like these happy feel-good books, but summer is nostalgia and sadness for me. Maybe because I'm an autumn girl, so I have like reverse seasonal depression, and summer just means sadness for me. But yeah, I think these books are perfect to read on the beach. What else can I say? And this one should be on the list. The last book is kind of in the same vein as the previous two books. They're all quite similar in feeling and theme, where it's like a tragic gay love affair. But again, this one is stunning. This is Swimming in the Dark by Tomasz Jedrowski. This takes place in the 1980s in communist Poland, and Ludwig and Janusz meet during a summer camp and spend like a dreamlike summer just falling in love, enjoying their love affair. But soon there's political tension that starts driving them apart. Like, Ludwig is more activist and dreams of freedom, while Janusz is more conformist and chooses the path of safety. And upon their return to Warsaw, they become more involved in the political tensions, and this starts to put a strain on their love affair. And that's what I liked about this one a lot, that politics also plays a very important role and shows how, even though you can love each other very much, sometimes your view on the world and how you conduct yourself within political tensions can still drive you apart, no matter how strong that love is. And again, it's just so heartbreaking and tender and beautiful, and really shows the price we have to pay for our idealism. So those were all the books I wanted to talk about today. Like I said, this is one of my favorite genres for summer, and if you have any recommendations that fit this list, please let me know. I'm always open for more. And if this genre sounds appealing to you, definitely check out the books I mentioned. Let me know what you thought. And yeah, thank you so much for being here again and chatting about books with me. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!